Good evening and welcome to a very much upbeat VAR Varside Spurs podcast coming to you all the way from the Varside Arms. I'm Lee, and with us we have Steve. How you doing, mate?
Yeah, I'm good. Thanks for asking. You don't usually ask, so thanks for asking.
You're on a roll, man. Andy, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Thanks, Lee. And yourself?
Yeah, pretty good. Simon?
Hello, mate. You're right. Yeah, I'm good. I'm here. I'm ready. Let's go.
And Rich, how are you, man?
I'm all right. I feel like I should be quick after what Simon's just said.
Good. Yeah. And our very special guest tonight, Adam Richman. How are you, my man?
I'm well. I'm keeping it brief this time. Thank you.
Right. Fair enough. This is going to be about a 5-minute pod, I think.
It's going to be like, it's going to be like when you
have a wonderful day.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
It's going to be like when you upset your missus and she gives you one-word answers. What's wrong with you? Nothing. I'm fine.
Yeah, that's every day for me. I always do something that's upset her. So, okay, let's get straight into the game then, shall we? So, we're going to talk about team selection. Any thoughts on that? Like, do you feel that was what you expected it to be, or did you expect any changes, Andy?
No, I expected him to go with the same team as last week and the same team from the end of last season. I thought it was probably the right thing to do. Everybody seems to know their job. Until, of course, the whistle went, and then everybody seemed to not know their job, and that seemed to be the problem. So, I thought it was the right choice of team, but I don't know. I guess we'll get on to, further into the game, and when he should have changed it, maybe he should have changed it sooner. But yeah.
I mean, I've got to say, I think I was a little bit surprised because I thought you'd go with a more experienced head and Perisic. The other ones I pretty much thought would be the same, but I thought Perisic has the big game experience. So that did surprise me.
But he's a manager that works on merit, isn't he? So I think he wanted to give Sessegnon the chance, and I think he'll still persevere with Sessegnon, because I didn't particularly think that Sessegnon had any worse a game than anybody else. No. It was just a bad performance against an extremely good side.
Adam, did you think that kind of the team you were expecting to see, or?
Like everyone else, it's like I want to unwrap our new toys, but just because they're new doesn't mean that they're ready to deploy. And we know that Chelsea, with big signings, and you saw that first strike from Koulibaly, you saw where the money is gone. He was a difference maker, not just on the score sheet. So I was surprised that, quite frankly, Sessegnon, I liked that it was merit, but I was surprised to see him on the team sheet. And I was surprised to see such an offensive game plan when a side that is going to press the ball high and commit tactical fouls, as we talked about before we started taping. So, Højbjerg ended up producing from a defensive midfield position, which is, not very common. But I do think that when we put on Richarlison and things switched to a much more offensively minded, offensively aggressive standpoint, the second half had an energy the first half did.
Yeah. What about you, Rich? Were you quite happy with where we were on that, within team selection?
Sorry. Yeah. Well, I mean, no surprises, like we said before the game. That it was the obvious thing, and we know that he's going to be cautious in introducing all these new faces. So yeah, I mean, I was a little bit like you in that. I would quite like to have seen Perisic on, a bit early, well, from the start. But I was really, really pleased with. The timing and the impact of bringing Richarlison on. I thought that was just masterful.
Yeah. So we'll come on to that a bit later on. But Simon, I was going to ask you about the goals we conceded. What did you make of those? Were they individual errors or product of Chelsea playing well?
Well, the fact that I forget his name, their bloody player wasn't being marked. But
James.
No. Sorry, the first one.
Koulibaly.
Koulibaly,
Yeah.
Yeah, so he was
Koulibaly
being
on that
marked.
volley.
Emerson was wherever Emerson was, but there was probably 20 meters between them. So if you know that you've got a player there, and he's going to try and launch it on or on a rebound or something, then he should have been marked. So that's completely unforgivable. That's what you should just be doing that. I certainly feel that. The second one with James, I think that was well worked, but gave him a load of space. So again, who is there that should have been covering off that space? Because it was very smart of Sterling to pass it across, because the guy just had no one around him. Again, he had 20 square meters of clear, well, probably more than that, of clear space, so he could do whatever he wanted to. He had all the time in the world. Yeah. Steve, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, on both goals, the first one, clearly we've clearly looked at how they had set up the corners and set up our zonal structure in a certain way, but I think that they've obviously looked at the fact that we go zonal, and the best way to beat that was to have someone around the back, and we just didn't adjust. And I don't like Souness. I'm not a big Souness fan, but he was right about the fact that on the pitch you need to kind of make that adjustment and see, look, there's a danger there that we need to be kind of be aware of. I think there's a massive I can't remember who made this comment, but there's a massive habit of marking a player and jostling for position and being very handsy with players rather than actually getting your body position and your body shape into a position to actually defend, to properly defend. So if he was able to open the body a bit more, then you defend that situation, and as the ball travels, you get out to Koulibaly. But because we're so busy fighting with players in and around the box, you forget about the spare player. So that was on that side, that was the issue. On the corner, for James's goal, I felt that we were probably still defending as we would with a back five or with a back, with the three. So the spare player, the wing back, would be deeper, and that would mean that James wouldn't be in all that space. So you've got Romero and Dyer that were really, really close to each other, and therefore Davis had to tuck in, which leaves that left James in all that space. So
you're quite right, Steve, because what happened was it was all kicking off on that side of the pitch, and it drew Dyer over. I don't know why he got drawn over, but he did, and that opened up that space that Ben Davis then needed to fill, and Reece James was smart enough to stay in position, really, and just wait for it.
Do you think we were strong enough? I mean, in that passage of play, there was a couple. I think there was more than once where our players kind of felt a nudge in the back and threw themselves to the ground, hoping to get a free kick.
Yeah, I think Kulusevski was doing that a lot because I think they targeted him a lot when he was deep in the game, in our half. Because they've obviously seen how he likes to pick the ball up, play a 1-2, and progress up the line. And he was doing that.
It happened to Kane quite a bit as well, in terms of when the ball certainly, because I personally, apart from the goal and kind of being strong, I don't think Koulibaly's that good a player. I don't actually rate him. I don't think he's that good a player. I don't think he's tactically and technically very good. He's a strong player. And we play to his strengths by playing balls in to the player, to the defend, to the striker's feet, and not being fast in terms of our movement. So, and you allow him to be aggressive, and then he's going to look really good because he's just going to come through you.
I'm going to be a bit, unforgiving here, but I think he'll have not a great sort of latter part of the season. I think he's quite slow.
He's got injury issues as well.
Yeah, I'm being a bit ungenerous here as well, but I'm not sure that strike was intended. I think he just swung it, and I'm not even sure he connected with his boot. I think it might have even come off his shin. But anyway, Adam, what are your thoughts on the
goals? I mean,
goals,
at the end of the day, when someone has a golazo, right, there's only so much you can do.
Yeah,
I think that
agreed.
Whether or not, I remember people arguing that Wayne Rooney's famous bike kick against City came off his shin. may have come off his shin, but it went under the crossbar, right?
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
it's like
Yeah.
we could sit here and talk about releasing someone down the third channel, playing an overlapping run, all these technical things, but you win a game by scoring one more goal than the other guy.
Yeah.
And realistically, it was a belter. It came from distance, and kind of like Joe Hart, you know, Lloris struggles sometimes to pick up the flight of the ball when it's coming in, and maybe because it didn't come clean off of his foot and had a bit of movement and coming through traffic. I mean, I've seen a lot of the Chelsea Twitter complaining that Richarlison was maybe screening, you know, the Chelsea keeper on the last header. I mean, there's on Højbjerg's shot. At the end of the day, though, a great shot is a great shot. The Reece James thing, though, this is why I can't understand. And I've been at the Battle of the Bridge. I remember going to a game and seeing it was 2-0. I was getting sort of mobbed, and Chelsea security was like, for your own safety, you should leave a little bit before the final whistle. They're walking me back, and my buddy who drives me when I'm in London is a West Ham supporter, and he starts going like this. I'm like, it's 2-0, relax. He's like 4-0. And Demba Ba had scored twice in the time it took me to walk back to the car. So like going to Stamford Bridge always riles me up, and you know that they're going to play a high press. You know, with Havertz and Loftus-Cheek really having great control. You know, fortunately, and I forget whether or not I can curse on this one, but I'm going to. Feel free to edit me.
Yeah,
but tomorrow
go
from
ahead.
Dumb and Dumber, fortunately for us, Havertz and Mason Mount couldn't hit the G-spot on a 10-pound pussy. And had they had a nanogram of accuracy on some of those strikes, or if Lloris weren't as good as he was on picking up certain shots and pushing them over the crossbar, we would have been in a bad way. So that's why I couldn't understand the back three, or widening out that defensive midfield posture and putting in Skip, or putting in someone who's going to lay body on people like Beckenker and Højbjerg will. And look, it's Chelsea, man. Why not park the bus?
Yeah, totally.
And Reece James, to be fair, right, there is an element of when you're getting bodied all game, right? And Reece James on Son, like, whatever you want to think of the slide tackle, whatever you want to think of the hair pulling, like, I guess it's only okay when Guendouzi or Fellaini do it. Okay, let's pretend that that's okay. But he's in space because there was only three back. And like you said, Dyer gets pulled over. There's no one else there. And the other thing is, like you said, Sterling has that heads-up play. He has since Liverpool. You know, he understands it. Had Sessegnon dished instead of shooting right into the goalie's chest, even put it across the box, see what happens.
Yeah.
Because that's the only way Diaz scored off of us against Liverpool. He knew, Klopp said, you know, they took the bolts out of his neck, and Dr. Frankenstein let him off the table, and he said, fire bad, shoot into box, lots of limbs.
I thought that was a Harry Kane impression there.
That's more like that.
I actually just want to get our takes on. I'll come to you straight away, Simon. Actually, so you can fill in on that as well. But just overall on how you think we played, and and what the tactical changes added to what we did as well. Because I've got to say, like, one of the things that me and Rich did in the last pod when we did that two-hander, we were just saying, like, look, just as long as this time we actually do lay a glove on them, because the last matches we got nowhere near them, and I put a tweet out just before the game, just saying, win, lose or draw, as long as we look like we're actually having a good go at them. But that first half, that's fucking awful. I mean, it was absolutely.
I'm so pleased. Really, I'm so pleased you've ended with that, because I was going to.
Anyway, go, Simon. Go on.
No, it really looked like we were getting rinsed that first half, and the one, as you said, you were talking about the Sessegnon chance. But then you saw the wide shot, and there was no one there. He was there. He blew through his own, and there was no one steaming in to support him. There was, So I do take your point, which is he could try and do something and put it across the box, but he's looking. But there's no one there.
Harry was at the top of the box. He had just arrived at the top of the box.
Maybe he was just out of shot then, because it just looked like he was pretty much on his own, and no one would have been there to help him. But that's maybe. I'm sure you're right. It's just that's how it looked when I watched it. But yeah, it did look like for the first half we were just getting run around, and we had a period. I think we had a spell of possession where we were giving him